In this video, we're talking all about what has happened in Edmonton and the real estate market for the month of November. Now, we are almost nearing the end of the year, and we'll be able to talk about what has happened all year in the video that's coming up next month. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that as we talk about, did Edmonton beat its predictions for the year, and what are the upcoming predictions for this coming 2025 year. So let's talk about November and what's been happening in the real estate market there. So there's no big surprise that the number of new listings coming onto the market for Edmonton did go down. Now, that has been coming down the last few months, and that's quite normal at this time of year. We typically don't see a whole lot of listings coming on in the fall, winter months, especially in November, December. We still do see listings come up and we still see sales come up. It's just a lot less. And overall, we've had just a low amount of available houses for sale, and now we have even less. So you might be wondering, well, if the interest rates went down, hasn't the market picked up? Now, that is helping increase buyer demand, but not necessarily seller demand, like sellers putting up their houses for sale. Now, if they're also looking to buy and it's increased their desire to buy, then it could motivate them. But a lot of people are now waiting until the new year because there's just a few weeks left before Christmas, or there's only a few weeks left before the end of the year, and with the end of the year comes the most busiest time of the year with Christmas. And so a lot of people are planning for the new year, whether it be January, February, or even the spring market. If you take a look at how many new listings we had on the market overall so far from January to November, we had 25,000 listings this year, and that is up by 2.5% from last year. That's not a whole lot extra that we had last year, but let's take a look at the sales and see what that number looks like. So if we take a look at how many sales happened in the month of November, we had 1,372 properties sell in November, which is down from October by over 20%. Again, nothing alarming because this is what happens, but the number has drastically dropped. If you take a look at our comparison from last year, we've had 19,000 sales this year alone, and that's up 16.7% more sales from January to November than last year at the same exact time frame. So you remember I just talked about how we had only 2.5% increase in number of homes for sale, and then we had a 16.5% increase in sales. That number obviously is very uneven, which means that our houses have become more and more in demand. You can see that with the sales, which means that's why the prices have been driven upwards, up in the 10%. So if you were looking last year at this time and you're wondering what happened to those houses that I thought were too expensive, they've now become even more expensive. Now, that being said, they're still worth a lot more. It's still easier to buy a home, and it's more affordable to buy a home in Edmonton than it is in Calgary or even Ontario and BC. So the houses are still affordable, but man, the demand is so high, and going into the new year, it's only going to get higher. Currently, right now, as of the end of November, there's 3,317 properties for sale. This includes both single family and condo properties in Edmonton area. If you watch our videos updating every Tuesday live, I'm talking about what the single family home market is doing. And if you've been tuning in, we're sitting at the 1,600 average amount of single family homes for sale. So you can see of the 33, about half of those are single families, and the other half, a little less than half, is the condo market. So it's definitely very, very slim pickings, and when you're a buyer, you really have to have everything dialed in terms of being ready to compete, because you likely will be competing in a multiple offer. And if you're not competing, you might be dealing with sellers that have been waiting for this price that may actually be still too high, and that's why their home's been sitting on the market for a while, and that's the homes that are left for you to look at. Now, if we take a look at the average days on market, we have increased into the 40 numbers now. Last year it was 45 for detached homes, and now it's at 42. Nothing too crazy, but if you take a look at the reality of average days on market, homes that are priced right that hit the market are usually gone within a week or two. Now we're starting to see them last a little bit longer than a week now, maybe 2 weeks, but 42 is on average based on those quick homes and also the homes that have just been sitting on the market 90, 100, 200 days plus. One of the biggest changes this year compared to last year, we've seen a trend in this, is the semi-detached homes. These are the half duplexes. They share one wall, but they don't have another wall on the other side, like they're on your own. That one went from in the 40s, from 40 days on market to 32 days on market. And that's because there's a higher demand for that lower price point. As things start to get more expensive, people's price points haven't changed. They still can only afford this amount, but they're only getting to get this type of home. So those homes are now even in more higher demand. Now, what are the prices going for in Edmonton right now? As of November, we take a look at the average sale price in all of Edmonton for all homes. We're looking at an average of $409,000, which is lower than it was last month, but it's higher by 13.4% overall year over year. If you take a look at the detached homes, we are looking at an average of $521,000, and that is higher than last year by 11.7%. We normally only see a 2 to 3% increase, and sometimes actually just a 1 to 2% increase. The 500,000 mark has not been broken until this past year, and we went quite a bit over 500,000 when you're looking at a single family home. Now, if you take a look at the semi-detached homes, the ones I talked about that have higher demand, that average price went up 15.2% from last year, which is now at $417,000. And the row townhouses is an average of $280,000, and the over year is 2.9%. And the apartment condominiums, interestingly enough, the average price is $194, and year over year, that number went up by 15.7%. You've heard me before, if I do talk about condos, how much I'm like, they never move in value. They're actually increasing and they're actually selling. Again, it's because of the fact that the higher price point is pushing people downwards, and it's moving people into the semi-detached, the row townhouses, or the condominiums. So what does this all mean for the last month of December? December is notoriously known to be a little bit slower, but I'll tell you from the ground floor, we've seen multiple offers I've been involved with. We've still been able to win them, but you have to be prepared, because December market, though it normally is slower, it's not always the case. We have seen and dealt with homes that have still very stubborn sellers who are trying to sell a home and not willing to negotiate. And then there's other sellers that are more than willing to negotiate, they just hadn't adjusted the price. So you definitely, if you're a buyer, need to understand what's happening in the real estate market. Your realtor will walk you through the different conditions of not just the neighborhoods, but also the homes themselves. And then you also need to talk about, as a seller, what is happening in your neighborhood? What are your other competition looking like? Are people listing at the same price as you? All those types of things will help determine your market positioning in your home today. So if you're thinking about selling or buying in the next 30 days, you might want to just have a conversation with a professional to see if it actually makes sense to be all wrapped up and ready to go for January, February. A lot of people are trying to beat that predicted spring market rush, and it's creating its own little market rush right now, which we've actually seen in past. And usually when I've seen this in the past, a few years back, it has made for an extremely busy spring market. So if you're buying in the spring, be very prepared that you will be in a very high chance of being in multiple offers. And if you're selling and buying, we definitely need to have a strategy in place so that you're not kind of out on one end and not the other. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll talk to you guys next month.